everyone makes mistakes, right? Maybe some of us make more of them than others. That was so dumb. And we went the wrong way. Oh my god! Really hope this doesn't turn into a snuff film. Who's to say, really? Last spring, I did a 2-month bikepacking trip in Scotland, England, and the Netherlands. And there are some things I did right. There are some things that I made good choices on. And there are also some things I did wrong. Mistakes were made.
I may have made an error in judgment.
But hey, that's how we learn, right? So I've written down some of the things I would say I got right and wrong on that trip, and maybe I'll help somebody else learn from my mistakes. Ah, man, one of these is really embarrassing. I'll get to that in a sec. Okay, I'm gonna try to alternate so that it doesn't hurt so much. So let's start with something I did right, okay? I packed clothing for varied weather. Between the coast of Scotland in the early spring and the Netherlands in a heat wave, I really had a variety of weather conditions. There were some cold days, there were some very hot days, there were some very rainy days, and I feel like I packed clothing for everything appropriately. I had some thick socks and a good jacket for the cold. I had a sun shirt I loved for the hot days. And then I packed a lot of rain gear because I don't like being cold and wet. In a world where you're kind of always trying to pare down, sometimes we're at risk of cutting out something that's really important and that we're gonna wish we had down the road. And I feel like I didn't pare down too much. And I had all the clothing that I needed. So props to me. And what I did wrong is packing too much stuff. No, that's not exactly true. I would say rearranging the stuff on my bike so it functions better. I feel like I used everything I brought other than, some of those things that you have to bring even if you don't use them, like a first aid kit and tools and spare parts and stuff. I think I need to make better use of the space on my bike. I think I still carry too much weight on the back of my bike. I've moved some forward. I have fork bags now, but I still feel like the majority of the weight is on the back of my bike, and I'd like to shift more to the front to help my bike feel a little more balanced. And I also feel like I'm not making good enough use of my frame, like the triangle of my frame. I just carry 2 water bottles in there, and because my bike is a small bike and the top tube is angled, I don't even have that much space for my water bottles. Like the one water bottle is actually quite hard to get out. So I think I could benefit from a frame bag and then maybe a new front rack with some bigger front bags, and then maybe some feed bags on my handlebars as my water place. These are some thoughts. The next thing I did right is bug protection. I'm a little embarrassed to say that when I first started bike touring, I didn't even really know what ticks were. I guess I'd heard of them, but I had never treated them as seriously as I should have. And I guess just got by on a wing and a prayer. But now that I know about ticks, I took a lot of precautions on this bike tour. I nearly always wore pants with my socks pulled up over the division on my pants. The division. The end of your pants. The cuff? The cuff. That's a fancy word. And anytime I went through a particularly weedy or forested area, and basically every night, I would always give myself a tick check as well as I could. Ticks can carry a number of, I'm not a medical professional. I forget what ticks do. Let me look it up. Why bad to be bit by tick? I'm not joking, that's literally what I'm writing. I wrote talk, but it'll figure it out. Okay, I'm going to the Cleveland Clinic. Ooh! types of tick-borne illnesses. There's a lot, guys. Look at this. Rough. Yeah, so ticks are serious business, and I took them very seriously. And I'm really glad I did, because I met some hikers and bikers that would be like actively picking multiple ticks off of them. And I did also carry a little tick picker if I needed to, but I luckily never needed to. And I also brought a bug hat for the midges in Scotland, because midges are like these little insects that are in these swarms and bite.
Oh my god, can you see those? They're like on my face. Oh my god. Bitches everywhere.
And I did get bit a ton of times on my first visit to Scotland. So this time I came prepared, and I barely saw any. But, you know, better to be prepared. That is one thing I would not remove from my bags. The next thing I did wrong was water management. It's a pretty fundamental part of bikepacking. And I'm a nutritionist by training, so I should really be better with my water. I was good about making sure I always had access to water. I was always refilling. I had a water filter so I could use the streams to filter and refill my water. But at the start, I was only traveling with 2 bottles. That was a mistake. I did eventually just buy a third plastic bottle, so I had 3 bottles on the go. But even then, I find when it is cloudy or cold, I don't drink enough water. So much so that I challenged myself to drink more water one day and ended up making a whole montage out of it. So I did get better at it, but yeah, water is so crucial. Next time I will be carrying more bottles, preferably larger bottles. Yeah, I just need a lot more water. I need to carry more water, and I need to drink more water. That is my mission for my next bike tour. Ooh, next thing I did right was listening to my body. I was feeling particularly fatigued on this tour, and it might have just been that I was riding, thicker tires and a heavier bike than I have in the past. I think something might have had to do with the fact that I've been switching to barefoot shoes and just walking barefoot more in general, which I'll leave you to research and decide if it's something you're interested in. But the idea is to basically let our feet and legs and body move in a way that's closer to how it naturally would if not constrained by our modern footwear. And the fabric on the soles of my shoes are a little more minimal so that you can get like a bit more ground feel and kind of let your foot move a little more naturally. But I think the challenge with that, with biking day after day, is that normally the ideal is to have more of a stiff sole to your shoe so that your muscles don't have to work as much. And I think probably because my shoes were so flexible, I think it might have fatigued my legs a little extra because my leg muscles were fatigued in a way that they never have been. So I have heard that Lems is coming out or has come out with, I think they're called like the Trail Thrasher. They're coming out with a new shoe that is supposed to be that like kind of wide zero drop type shoe, but a little sturdier for those of us that need it. So I think I need to try that out and see if I feel a little better with that extra support, because now my toes have spread out so I can't squeeze them back into normal shoes. So I got to find a solution for that. But all of this aside, I just went on a tangent. My apologies. Listening to my body. I was very fatigued and I really tried to rest when I needed to, do the distances that my body could comfortably do, and use trains when I needed to, have a rest day when I needed to, just put my body ahead of my pride, And I think because of that, that really helped me keep having fun and having a good time and really enjoying being there. Because even though I was fatigued, it was like, oh no, I'm fatigued. I'll take a day off in this beautiful Scottish town and wander around the countryside. Oh no. Wrong. Oh no. I need to sit up for this. Okay, this isn't even the one I'm most embarrassed about. I'm getting to that shortly. But this one is wind planning for camping. Anyone who watched my video in the Outer Hebrides, yeah, that was a mistake. Listen, I've camped for a while. I thought I could camp. I thought I knew things about camping, and I do. Somehow I've just never attempted or had to attempt to figure out a camping spot in high winds. I foolishly tried to set up my tent on a coast. I can't say for sure what speed those winds were. You can look at the videos and decide for yourself. As I saw it bowing in the wind, I was pretty sure that was not going to be a great place to set up camp for the night, and ultimately managed to find an indoor shelter for the night, which I think was the right solution with how intense those winds were. But from a lot of research, I also learned how to kind of use my guy lines better and the importance of finding a shelter to protect your tent from the wind. I know that seems like something I should have just thought of. I did try to hide my tent behind these kind of mounds of dirt, but that wasn't enough. Yeah, I was just kind of upset with myself for not thinking of that. I think I got so excited about the idea of setting up camp on this beautiful coast and waking up to see the water. And sometimes I think with wild camping, well, always with wild camping, you need to prioritize safety. And I think, it's way better to have a less glamorous space and to be safe than to chase some vision of what I want to wake up to in the morning. So yeah, I learned a lot from that. And I'll leave those resources below. Okay, and although that is a more embarrassing side of wild camping, I would now like to go to something I did right, which is challenge myself to wild camp more, just in general. Because despite all my years of camping and bike touring, I feel like I hadn't gotten really comfortable solo wild camping. And so a big part of this trip was challenging myself to wild camp solo. And I think Scotland's an amazing place to do that. So long as you follow the outdoor access code, you're basically allowed to camp anywhere. So that made it a lot easier. There's a lot of just really beautiful wild spaces. And I really pushed myself to wild camp a lot. I genuinely got to the point that I preferred wild camping to campgrounds. And campgrounds were something that I've always fallen back on because I feel that little bit safer being around people, and obviously being able to shower and have some resources is nice, but I genuinely came to really, really love wild camping by just challenging myself to do it more. So I think that's something I really did right, and I'm really proud of myself. That's my little toot toot. Oh my gosh, this might be really nerdy, but if you're open to it, I would be really excited if you would leave your little toot toots in the comments. I don't know if you've ever played roses, thorns, and toot toots. It's to recap your day, you say one great thing that happened that day, which is your rose, one bad thing, and then a toot toot, which is something you're proud of. If you want to leave me your bike touring toot toots below, just any moment bike touring that you're really proud of, I would love to read them. Okay, and then the wrong that I guess I'm most embarrassed by is my passport protection. I kept my passport in a bag inside my handlebar bag, which is an Ortlieb handlebar bag, waterproof. However, I took a tumble into what I would like to call a swamp, but it was really a large puddle.
That was a full tumble into that puddle. Luckily, my bags are hopefully waterproof enough.
I think the handlebar bag must have kind of just popped open. It's a magnetic enclosure, or water seeped in. I don't know. Water got into my handlebar bag. I didn't realize though. I thought I was mostly focused on my back bags and myself that were all soaked, but I didn't realize that my handlebar bag had fallen so far that it had gone in this water. And I went hours before I realized that my passport and my phone cord and all of the papers in there, everything was just soaking up water for hours. And my passport got damaged, and I had to eventually take a train to London to get a new passport. It was a whole thing. I do not recommend. So now, my passport lives in 2 bags. It's in a plastic bag inside another plastic bag. And until I find maybe a fancy version of that, if such a thing exists, I mean, honestly, at this point, I would love to find a waterproof, fireproof, theft-proof bag. But if no such thing exists, my passport will now be living in 2 plastic bags for the rest of time. So I learned from that mistake. Do not recommend. Okay, you know what? Why don't we just, let's just add some insult to injury. Let's just finish on a bunch of wrongs, okay? I also didn't pack a spare phone cord. I always have, I normally always do, and the one time that I need a spare phone cord, I did not have one. That was a mistake. Oh man, my camera just died. So we'll just finish this up on my phone. Where was I? I was talking about my spare phone cord. Yeah, and then on this trip, I managed to go through 3 phone cords. And especially because I was using my phone as my navigational tool, which I like. You know, I've used a Wahoo in the past, and it has its benefits like battery power and having a second option when your phone cord dies in a terrible swamp accident. But I just generally prefer the simplicity of my phone and my phone apps. So I think it's always good to have a spare phone cord, but especially when using your phone as your only method of navigation and then not being able to charge it, it's not a good time. So yeah, highly recommend multiple phone cords. And lastly, not bringing a valve adapter. It worked out fine. I made do, but as you may have seen in my Netherlands video, our pump broke, and then somebody very kindly lent us a pump, but it was for a Dunlop valve, and we have Presta valves. I think moving forward, the adapters are really small, and I might never need one again, but if for some reason my pump broke and I needed to use a pump that was for like Schrader valves, which are generally more common a lot of places, or a Dunlop in the case of the Netherlands, I think an adapter might be helpful. So yeah, there you have it, folks. I made some mistakes. If you want to share your mistakes, I wouldn't say no. I would welcome some company in all of the mistakes I made, but also in the things that you got right. Give me your toot toots and your embarrassing stories so I don't feel so alone. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.